I think this is going to be a nice, chill, hang edition of everything else. I finally got to cardigan weather. I've had the windows open in my office, my home studio here all day. The high today here in our little section of Kansas City, 59 degrees. It's rainy. It's cozy. I don't even have to be stressed about this weekend in any way, shape, or form. I'm not that emotionally invested in any of the college games, and the Chiefs don't play till Monday Night Football. I'd hold a hot cup of coffee here if I hadn't already had two and then decided to cut myself off before the show. I have some water over there, but this is not the same. Does not bring the same fall cozy energy that I hope we all get to enjoy a little bit of, or wherever you're watching or listening around the world. Because I know the tendrils of this show have reached internationally already. Appreciate you being here with us for today's edition of Everything Else. I am Joshua Brisco. Tucker D. Franklin will be joining us here in a little while. We're going to do a little bit of Chiefs, a little bit of everything else today, because again, Monday's show, we can talk even more about Chiefs Commanders, as we'll be in like pregame territory almost for another weekday game. I do think right now, I think I'm in the majority of just like people in Chiefs Kingdom. When you think about Monday night, Washington Commanders, no Jaden Daniels, Marcus Mariota starting. You're kind of all feeling the like cozy Friday, kick your feet up and deal with that later sort of energy, right? That's where I'm at. I don't have the feeling that I had last week of Chiefs Raiders and like, oh, is it gonna be a real football game, or are we gonna get some sort of reprehensible blowout? Well, we got the reprehensible blowout, and all good for it. Scott has already gotten to point B in the chat here. So yeah, I thought the Chiefs were gonna cook the Jags too. That's almost where I'm at today on Friday, a full weekend removed from this game. We'll go through some of the injury notes, and today's a Thursday for the Chiefs, even though it's Friday for the rest of us, trying to figure out, practice and injury reports and all that good stuff. I don't think the Commanders deserve to be put in a Raiders bucket. I don't know. I'm sure they're on different tiers of the ass list. I'll tag Tucker in later, and we'll see. I mean, Tucker's saying it's close, which I think is fair. And a Jaden Daniels Commanders team is a different animal. If you said, hey, it's the Jags with no Trevor Lawrence, I'd go, okay, I think Jaden Daniels is better than Trevor Lawrence. I go, okay, well, the backup quarterback Jags shouldn't beat this team. I think the Chiefs are going to win this game. I think it'll be okay. I don't think they're the Raiders. I just don't have a terrible sense of urgency to get to this game. And again, maybe it's because it's Monday and the whole week is delayed by a step. The Chiefs can't be looking ahead to Buffalo. I'm not even really looking ahead to Buffalo. I'm kind of looking ahead to the Red Zone channel. I'm kind of looking ahead to the quad box. I love an NFL Sunday that we get to enjoy independent of when the Chiefs are playing. And obviously, I got pregame and during the game and postgame responsibilities. So I love a Monday Night Football Chiefs game because it means I get to crack open the windows and enjoy a truly autumnal day of Red Zone. I think that's just kept me from getting anxious about this game in a way that maybe we have for a few others. We did get a few pieces of news yesterday that I want to touch on here, and we're going to talk some trade deadline as the title of the show indicates, because I do think there is one move the Chiefs almost have to make over the next couple of weeks. But we've had lots of questions about Josh Simmons over the last few weeks. Andy Reid said yesterday there's communication, so I'm not going to get all into it. Everything's positive. It's not a negative situation. He's taking care of family. That was the update from Andy Reid. Go watch the clips if you haven't seen them yet. I think Nick Jacobs had one with that and the follow-up when Reid said it's been positive, but it didn't clarify if any of the timeline has changed. Reid said that Simmons has been, quote, very good at communicating it. So that to me is a good sign, or at least a good update to have. Maybe it allows you to release a little bit of your biggest concerns, as we've tried to piece this all together, that we can go, okay, I don't necessarily need to be in detective mode right now. We're going to just let this go. That's a good update from Andy. That's enough to hang your hat on and say, okay, I think it sounds like you're expecting him back at some point, but it's a family situation. There is communication, at least now. I don't know if that's retroactive to day one or where that settles in, but it, at least from what we've heard from Andy Reid at the podium, communication's good, vibes are okay, taking care of family, not a negative situation, everything's positive. Thumbs up from me. That's as much of an update I think as you can get. And we don't know if this is an update because Simmons just said, hey, you can go ahead and say this. Or if the Chiefs said, hey, we want to go ahead and put this out. We still haven't heard anything from Rosenhaus. I don't know that we need to. I just wanted to pass that along because I do think that is limited and helpful considering how these last couple weeks have gone. So Jalen Moore, Monday Night Football, he's been very good in that spot. Totally comfortable with him. I just got off the air with Cody and Gold about an hour ago, and Cody asked, like, are you comfortable with Jalen Moore at left tackle? I absolutely am. I like that question. I like that word choice because comfortable is different than enormously excited, but I was comfortable with Jalen Moore as this team's left tackle in March. I'm comfortable with him after seeing him out there for a couple games. I'm more excited for Josh Simmons, short-term, long-term, but I'm comfortable with Jalen Moore. You'd love to have Josh Simmons back when he's available. Depending on how long he's gone, is there an acclimation period whenever he does return? Maybe. I don't know. That's in the future. But in the meantime, good update on Josh Simmons from Andy Reid. Feel good about Jalen Moore. Little injury things here. Just again, housekeeping on a Friday. Kareem Hunt had a bone bruise on his knee. Andy Reid said he's going to be okay, but they're kind of limiting him right now. We'll see where he ends up. Trey Smith, low back spasms. Jalen Watson, a limited participant with a back issue. Matt Derrick said that was all part of the plan for Watson. So keeping an eye on it and noting that. Meanwhile, Washington's banged up. Maybe this is part of it for me. Maybe this is part of, we'll have the definitive stuff on Monday, I guess. But Dorrance Armstrong's on IR now. Marcus Mariota's starting because Jaden Daniels isn't playing. It looks like Deebo Samuel and Terry McLaurin should both return for this game. Zach Ertz and Laramie Tunsil and Von Miller and Deron Payne, Jonathan Jones all got veteran rest days yesterday. So maybe I ought to be more concerned about Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, Bill, as you'll probably hear him called for the most part on Monday. But the Chiefs have had a real hot streak of containing number one running backs this season against some very good ones. And frankly, I know that Bill has been very, very productive since he had his role increase in Washington. He has the least pedigree of any running back the Chiefs have faced, starting running back the Chiefs have faced this year. From like Amarian Hampton and Najee Harris. Scattaboo was a higher draft pick than Krosky-Merritt. It's been very good. Totally a worthy starting running back who is deserving of respect. But the Chiefs have handled those pretty well. So I think that, to me, those are kind of the ingredients I have bouncing around on Chiefs Commanders. What I actually want to talk about a little more today, because Monday will maybe be more Commanders related. Maybe we'll get some news on this front. I don't know. But I want to talk about what the Chiefs should maybe do ahead of the trade deadline in a segment we're calling Trade Secrets. Now, I want to make clear, I don't have any secrets. I won't be sharing any secrets. But it's a good segment title, so it's called Trade Secrets. We were talking about the defensive tackle room from the very first episode of this show ever. It was, what's going on? Why did they cut Mike Pennell? What's happening here? Then on Monday, we were talking about how, man, it'd be nice to have Mike Pennell back on this team. Omar Norman-Lott. Then we found out right at the end of the show, right? That Omar Norman-Lott was going to injured reserve. His season's over with an ACL. Very, very disappointing for him. Real bummer there for a guy that's been battling injuries his entire very young pro career, and now he's, a year behind schedule, or at least a year added to his process to get back to health and hopefully be a part of this team early next year. So I think everybody probably already knows where I'm at on the defensive line room. Chris Jones is one of the best defensive tackles in football, a blue chip, elite, top shelf player. You would also like for him to play a reasonable or comparable snap count to most defensive tackles around his age and his usage. The problem is he is the pass rush, and he's also been very good against the run. Derek Nottie has not been particularly impactful. He's not a pass rusher, and he moves backwards more often than he used to, trying to hold his patch of grass against the run. Jerry Tillery, I thought, was a good offseason acquisition. I don't think he has lived up to the hopes of that acquisition so far. He is a fine NFL football player who you're happy to have in the rotation. I've now given you my thoughts on all three of the Chiefs' active defensive tackles. Jones, Nottie, Tillery. That's it. That is the entire list. There's a question here from, I'm going to say it's Chase in the chat. Says, does Nate ever give you any insight on trades, Josh? I guess sometimes we'll know. Sometimes Nate will be like, hey, I'm sniffing around over here. I'm looking at this. Here's something I'm hearing that's not necessarily public ready. What I will tell you with my hand on a stack of Bibles, if I have heard something as a preliminary background maybe thing, you are not going to hear about it because I am not putting my name on that on someone else's reporting that may or may not be ready to. I like to hear things. I like to know if there's something going on, if there's a little murmuring here or there, but I will not make a habit of repackaging that and sharing it. It's some of my least favorite kind of insider, air quotes, insider activities. Oh man, years and years and years ago. In fact, you know what? I've been meaning to move a particular old favorite over to a different spot in my backdrop. I can't see where he's at right now, actually. But years ago, one of our earliest, almost entirely sports creations, I suppose, was the creation of the Rumblings watchdog. We had Dick Justice, who I was going to put back there, and I'm wondering if Dick Justice is downstairs. I've got this whole shelf over here with a lot of stuff on it, and I do not see Dick Justice. Nope, found him. I need to move him over. I'll move him over during the break. I've been meaning to let him be involved in this show in a way that he deserves. Spiritual sequel or whatever. But I think I might have just been meaning Beards at that point. I don't know if, I think that was pre-Rudy. We had a little Charlie at that time too. I think we did. When people would tweet about rumblings, we created this entire Twitter account, Dick___Justice, to quote tweet things like hearing rumblings that the Chiefs that Patrick Peterson has been seen at Joe's for 3 straight days. 72 hours. And he would quote tweet that and point out the fact that you can always just say something like that. I'm hearing the Chiefs are interested in exploring a conversation with a team that may or may not employ Quinnen Williams. Oh, rumblings are here. And the internet's only gotten worse at that since. So anyway, I'm very sensitive to that because I have been annoyed by that many, many times. All of that to say, the defensive tackle room just needs something. It needs a body that they are happy to have in the rotation. The Chiefs didn't even activate a defensive tackle when they put Omar Norman-Lott on IR, which is like a little bit concerning. They called up Kevin Knowles from the practice squad, who got an active roster contract from the practice squad. They like him in special teams. And so I don't really think that necessarily reflects on Christian Fulton, who Nate openly made noises about on Tuesday's Only Weird Games. I haven't asked Nate anything extra about that. It just happened on Weird Games. Sorry, I'm reading a couple of comments that I do want to return to, but not necessarily right now. Interesting. I think Colin Saunders makes a ton of sense. He's just kind of wasting away on the Jags roster right now as a healthy scratch. He's tweeting about burn ends and bad narratives and everything. Bring him home. Unless the Jags just do not want to send him away because they're just squatting on their defensive tackle depth, he makes a ton of sense. I don't know that that's a way that you want to live your life, team building. That's how you find your way to a reunion with Derek Nottie for a conditional pick swap. I think there's an advantage to having players who know Spags and who Spags knows them, especially when you want them to be able to theoretically suit up in 6, 7, 8 days to play for your football team. So I think that makes total sense. I'm not going to go super into the weeds on Quinnen Williams or on the edge, Jermaine Johnson or Jalen Phillips. Guys we talked about, Seth Kaiser and I talked about them a lot on Only Weird Games. We didn't have Nate yesterday, but I'll let you hear. If you want to hear some of Seth's side of that, we talked about those 3 names quite a bit. I think the odds of any of those 3 guys being Chiefs are quite low. Saunders makes a ton of sense. But then if it's not somebody who moves the needle, and wherever you want to put Saunders, you can set him as the line. When you're talking about, I know I've mentioned these guys' names more than like anybody in the world right now, which is kind of the point. If you're talking about Marlon Tuipulotu or Zach Pickens or Broderick Martin, the guys on the practice squad, not on another team's roster, on your own practice squad, who none of them acquired, none of them bring enough juice, I guess I'll say. None of those guys demand enough attention or bring enough juice for you to give them an active roster spot while the entire NFL world knows how thin your defensive tackle room is. I just don't think they can be in love with any of those guys. So who do you got? Who else is it going to be? Because I just don't think you can survive a long time with Derek Nottie being your only one tech, although he kind of already was. And then a whole bunch of Mike Dana on the interior in passing situations. Some Leo Chanel weirdness in the middle of the defense. That's fine. That's stuff you can do for a series or for a few reps. It's not something you can do long term. I'm guessing the Chiefs end up probably making a move that's not as exciting as any of these big names, but that is impactful. That does bring in someone who does get a significant number of reps. That's not just some of the defensive end shufflings of years past where you go, man, Spags just didn't use Joshua Uche, huh? It's funny, like Steven mentioned, just because a team doesn't value a player doesn't mean they aren't valuable, like Thornton here or Uche in Philly. There just has to be some sort of investment. I'm guessing it ends up being a guy whose name we haven't said today. And maybe Saunders, maybe not. Again, maybe the Jags don't want to play him and don't want to trade him right now. That happens. That's fine. Somebody's got to get added to this room. I imagine Tuipulotu probably gets the call up on Monday. That'll be interesting. Or call up for Monday. But there just are not enough defensive tackles on this roster right now. I'm still so confused as to why Mike Pennell's not on this team, but that's how it goes sometimes. Somebody's got to get added to this group, though. I think that's all I'm going to talk about the Commanders and the trade deadline, at least by myself. We'll bring Tucker in here in a moment. After I say thank you to our friends at KC Cannabis Company. I didn't mention them at the very top of the show, but I should have because they joined on with us this week, and we are very, very happy to have them on board. You can check them out online at kccannabis.com. They are crafted for Kansas City, by Kansas City. They are locally owned, community-rooted, and an awesome company with 5 Kansas City area locations. They're built here. They're not based in some other state, having their headquarters out there and then sneaking on in to tell you about what they want to do. It's a great, great experience. If you don't know, perhaps, anything about cannabis, you want to learn something, go talk to the bud tenders at KC Cannabis. They do an awesome job on the educational side of things. There is real care from real people who are passionate about what they do, passionate about making sure that you know what's up, what's good for you, what are you interested in. There's no such thing as a stupid question when you have a great bud tender there to answer it for you. Really been impressed with all the people we've met at KC Cannabis, and their selection also is remarkable. So if you're a newbie who wants to demystify the process a little bit, or if you're an enthusiast that wants the absolute best of the best, I'll tell you to go over to KC Cannabis. 5 Kansas City area locations. You can check them out online at kccannabis.com.
Looking for premium products in Kansas City? Whether you're new to the world of dispensaries or a seasoned enthusiast, we've got just what you're looking for. Proudly Kansas City owned and operated, with 5 convenient locations in Kearney, Blue Springs, Excelsior Springs, KC North, and Lake Lotawana. And our knowledgeable team can help educate and guide you so you can feel confident in every choice you make. Come see for yourself what makes us the most trusted name in Kansas City.
I did find Dick Justice. This bit won't do anything for you if you're just listening, but I've brought Dick Justice over, and I think I'm gonna put him back here by this wonderful KCSN sign from Scott. I guess you can't see it now that Tucker's in the frame. That's okay. You can see his nose. You can see it. There we go. Perfect. Where he belongs.
That's pretty strong, actually. That placement is actually really good because it's like if you know type of deal.
Yeah, exactly. It's you ever Did you read those Easter little egg critter books when you were a kid? Little critter, and there was one other one that hid the little critters in the backgrounds or across. Your camera really does not.
Yeah,
want to focus on you right
the
now
focus is not great for some reason. I don't know what's going on.
What was the other one? Someone in the chat will let me know. It might just be Renee who lets me know. But like little critter, you would have like I think it was like a spider and something else. It's been a long time. That would be hidden in the illustration.
Mm-hmm.
Like a little Where's Waldo kind of thing. Not really Where's Waldo. It's more just find the Easter egg. That's it. It's a Dick Justice Easter egg back there.
I like it.
Tucker, I just recently was, I don't think I got all the way to the end of today's episode of That Football Show with you and Matt Verderam, but I was listening this morning, and I enjoyed a bunch of what you guys talked about with Chiefs Commanders, and we'll talk more about that later on. Anything I've missed so far in the trade discussion? You were there through the whole chat on Weird Games yesterday. You're here now. I really don't want to leave a stone unturned or just have like a super obvious thing that we miss, but I think right now it's a little bit of a waiting game.
I think I talked about this on Monday as well on the show, but I know I've talked about it a little bit on I think everything that I've done. It is so hard to tell just which teams are going to be open for business, right? And which teams are going to be able to or want to even trade off a piece. We mentioned obviously the Jaguars. I know people are already kind of like low on Colin Saunders just because he's not playing with the Jaguars, right? So they think he's not going to play here. I think you made a great point. I think it was Steven in the chat that said something about like just placement and like role and like team and everything. Situation very much does matter, as we've seen very many times. But I think it's going to be dependent on who's open for business. It's going to be these next couple weeks. November the 4th, I think is what the chat's told me, is the trade deadline. So there's still a couple more weeks. It's after the Chiefs play the Bills. So they'll have this week of games, and then after the Bills, they can make a move if they do decide to do that. It's so interesting because there's so much muck, as you've described it, Josh, with all these teams. Like these next 2 weeks are going to be pretty telling, I think, of what teams are going to be. All right, fine, we should probably sell some pieces off, or all right, we could probably make a trade and go get somebody and try to bolster up something that we have. I know it's probably talked about with all these other teams that are kind of hovering around that 500 mark. The parity in this league is now bigger more than ever. But I do think that like that's probably going to be the big part. I'll be curious how many trades actually happen, because I know every year we go into trade deadline and like, wow, this is going to be a busy trade. You always get that, that Jordan Schultz tweet that said, this is going to be the biggest trade deadline ever. And then there's 2 trades that happen throughout the whole league. Like that, it seems like it always happens. MLB is notorious for that, right? Of like, this is going to be the biggest trade deadline ever. And then nothing happens. So that could also be a possibility as well, because everyone's just okay with staying pat with the cards that they've been dealt already.
And I think that we might have mentioned this a little bit on Monday too, but that idea of who's selling right now. Let me say some names to you, and you tell me if you are completely confident that this team is willing to sell, knowing that like not only players on 1-year deals and knowing that they're out of contention, but teams who might be willing to move away from a player who that might indicate that they're moving towards a rebuild of some sort, or at least a retooling, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Las Vegas Raiders. I'm not sure. They have an incredible talent problem, and their healthy players have been hurt. You think Pete Carroll and Geno Smith want to start a rebuild going into year 2 of what they've done? I think they're going to be hesitant unless they get a really good offer.
Yeah.
The Browns? Probably. But I think Kevin Stefanski would like to continue moving in a certain trajectory there. They're trying to evaluate a young quarterback. They're not good, but I don't know that they're not in fire sale mode. The Baltimore Ravens? Absolutely not. The Dolphins, the Titans, and the Jets probably all are in the AFC.
Yeah.
In the NFC, the bottom of the conference is Washington, Arizona, the Giants, and the Saints. I'll add the Saints.
The Saints could probably sell, but nobody. I don't think anybody else would. Yeah.
I think you have 28 teams who are either buying or neutral, and 4 teams who are probably in fire sale mode now or in the next couple of weeks. Now, the next couple games could determine Vegas, Cleveland, maybe Baltimore. I just got a Schefter tweet saying that begins with, if Lamar Jackson cannot play Sunday, so I thought he was coming back. Maybe he's not. But right now, there are 4 teams who I think could honestly go to their owner and their head coach and their GM and say either, hey, you're not going to be here next year, or we're going to do this for the long haul. And then even like Terry mentioning in the chat right now with the Titans with the Chiefs connection, who do you want? I don't know. I don't know who the Tennessee Titans have who fixed that problem. So
Jeffrey Simmons, but...
Well, yes, I would love to. I'll take all the things we said about Quinn Williams so far. We can put it in the Jeffrey Simmons pile and then just repeat that. So I'll take that.
Yeah.
The next couple of weeks will dictate it for a couple of these teams. Maybe one more loss, maybe another bad loss, maybe unfortunately an injury or something. You go, okay, this isn't. We're not going to build on this. But right now, man, I think a lot of these teams are going to be holding for at least another week.
Tom makes a good point in the chat. Arizona is on a bye this week. It's a pretty heavy bye week for a lot of teams, actually, if I remember correctly. I talked about it on That Football Show. There's a lot of teams on bye this week. I think that's why you have so many games on Sunday, because you only have one Monday night game with the Chiefs and Commanders. This is not a Monday night doubleheader day. Which, interesting enough, Josh, the 2 Monday nights that the Chiefs have played, they have not done a doubleheader on.
I think, honestly, I'm good with that. I kind of like the Monday night doubleheaders going longer into the season. I think give me a Chiefs game.
I waffle back and forth, truthfully, between it, because sometimes I'm just like, I just play these games on Sunday, just play them where I can pay attention to them, and
that's
just doing 2 games at the same time. I think if they do, like, remember that one week that they did, one was an East Coast game and the other was a West Coast game, and they stacked kind of perfectly?
Yes.
Do it like that. But like the kickoff being at like 9 o'clock Central Time is kind of brutal, but like do it like that.
No, that's true. The very late kickoffs are rough, but if you're going to give me like 2 decent games or 1 good game and one that ends up being kind of a stinker, I'd rather have 2 Monday night games so I'm not just, drooling, staring at my TV, watching Carson Wentz in the 4th quarter for a reason that I can't explain.
They've not done a good job scheduling Monday night games this year. Like, I'll say it. I don't think
Thursday night games have been great, and Monday night has been kind of some stinkers, right?
100%. Yes, I agree. It's kind of maybe an anomaly, but the Monday night games have not been good. Back to the point about all the teams on bye. You have Arizona, Detroit, Jacksonville, Las Vegas, and the Rams, I believe, and the Seahawks. So, like,
big bye week.
6 teams on bye, and those are teams that are also kind of like in the moving on the bubble, right? Of like what they want to decide. Like Arizona could be a team sitting at 2-5 right now. If they had another game this week and if they had 2 more games in this span, but they just have 1 more game, you could probably learn a little bit more about them. Jacksonville's in a weird spot where they're 4-3, but they don't have the best vibes going on around them right now. Vegas is 2-5, but they just suck. I mean, they just don't have any talent on their roster. We knew that coming into the season. Max Crosby now wants, allegedly, I shouldn't say he does, but he allegedly wants out. And then the Rams and Seahawks aren't selling, neither of the Lions. So, I mean, those are three out of the 6 teams that are on bye right now could really benefit from gathering some more information about their football team. Yeah.
I hope they do some internal scouting and figure out, okay, yeah, we can go ahead and like Tom mentions in the chat, like you're talking about Calais Campbell. That's great. He's what, 39? I just did this on Tuesday.
Yeah, I think he's 73. I think maybe.
I mean, in football years, he's He's a
Ooh,
million.
That would be
Like,
a fun algorithm for us to try to figure out. Is like what is a dog years, like every 1 human year is 7 dog years. I don't think it's quite that heavy for football players. It's like every 1 year, because like what is the average career length? Like 4 years, right?
3 or 4 years, I think, right? Yeah.
So like 1 year has to be like 3 years in terms of
Minimum.
like regular human years.
Yeah, and that would make Calais Campbell almost 120 in human years, which I think is right. Like, Calais Campbell at 39 years old, still being a legitimate force and a legitimate factor, and probably the Cardinals' best pass rusher, at 39 years old, is about as impressive as someone living to like 119.
Yeah, VF is Epic says kind of seems like a morbid algorithm, TBH. And yeah, I think it is.
Every algorithm is morbid if you look at it for long enough. There are no pure algorithms. The algorithms do not care about morbidity, they care about your attention, and Calais Campbell has mine. That's the thing. Like, the Cardinals have lost 5 in a row. They shouldn't be holding on to hope here. But Jonathan Gannon would like to still be their head coach next year. I don't know.
He still wants to hit his players on the sideline.
Yeah, he wants to watch a player do the dumbest thing possible and then do an equally dumb thing. Like, yeah, I think that's maybe not adding up well for him. I don't know. I wanted to run one more trade thing by you here that I didn't mention in the first segment.
Okay, yeah,
just
go ahead.
with what Nate hinted at in the Christian Fulton discourse on Tuesday, and then I think it might have been Jeremy Fowler. I think you tweeted some screenshots of. Somebody mentioned Christian Fulton as a potential trade target, which is interesting. According to Over the Cap, he has the 10th highest Chiefs cap hit this season at $7 million. Base salary is $3.75. They've already paid about half that, obviously. Next year, now without Jalen Watson under contract, next year Fulton has a $13 million cap hit, and they'd cleared $10 million of space if they cut or traded him. They'd still be on the hook for the prorated bonus. They've already paid him. That's just going to be dead money if that's the case. How does that strike you? Because I've kind of gone back and forth here where I'm not sure that Noel Williams has overachieved by so much that I'm no longer interested in the idea of having Christian Fulton out there. I'm happy that Williams is working out the way that he has, but Jalen Watson's not under contract next season. This is a 2-year deal for Fulton.
Yeah.
Although it's easy to get out of next year. I wonder if this is a situation where we just barely ever see Christian Fulton in a Chiefs uniform. He does make sense for someone else to acquire, and you just chalk it up to a Noel Williams climb.
It's such a weird situation, Josh, because I know that they were they like Christian Fulton a lot and like his cornerback play. But here's the other thing about Christian Fulton and his profile coming in. He never played a full season. He's never played a full season in his NFL career. So that is something that you knew about Christian Fulton coming into the season, and something that you knew signing him was going to be a risk. You're taking a risk signing him. Now, when he played, he was a good football player. I thought he was a good football player. But he seemingly can't find the field or doesn't understand something. There's something going on that we don't know with Christian Fulton that is keeping him off of the field. Now, there are some teams that do need corners. Now, this trade wouldn't happen. I promise you this trade wouldn't happen. But the Indianapolis Colts need a cornerback because Charvarius Ward's out. I think they just had Kenny Moore come back, but they also have other cornerback injuries going on as well.
They've had cornerback injuries for like 4 years.
Yeah, yes. I mean, they've had struggles in that secondary. And I think this is Charvarius Ward's second concussion as well this season. And
this was from a warm-up collision, too, if you haven't kept up with that.
Poor Charvarius Ward, man. I good for him for getting the bag in both Indianapolis and San Francisco.
100%.
I'm very glad for him in that regard. I know he went through some pretty tough personal times out there in San Francisco as well.
Seems like a very good dude.
Yeah, so I'm glad to see him. But I always feel bad for him when he gets another Chiefs cornerback injury, L'Jarius Sneed, out there getting injured as well, so which is a big bummer. But shout out to him for getting the bag. But I will say I don't think that happens, right? Because I think that the teams that need corners are probably AFC contenders,
That's
and
true.
I don't think that the Chiefs are probably going to make a trade with an AFC contender. I would be shocked if they did. Just like I was kind of shocked when the Chiefs actually did a trade with the Ravens for Orlando Brown Jr., because I remember being like, there's no way the Ravens would actually do this trade, right? Like, they wouldn't give the Chiefs, like, what they need to win a Super Bowl. And they did, actually. The Ravens did willingly do that. But that's the biggest thing for me is that, again, I don't know who the suitors would be outside of, like, for a Christian Fulton. The money is interesting. on him as well, and they have to free up some space. I understand that the Mahomes restructure is probably going to be the big thing, that they free up a lot of space because they're right now $30 million over the cap, depending on what site you look at. I look at Spot Track because I think the UI is better than over the cap, but I think over the cap probably has better numbers.
I've always believed the exact opposite.
Really?
Yes. I've always
crazy.
been drawn to the 53-man setup on over the cap. It just makes it so easy. But I always feel like other people cite Spot Track for the numbers, and so I have been operating under the exact inverse of your assumption there.
I think it's so much easier to navigate Spot Track than it is to navigate over the cap.
Oh man, if I type OV in my like search bar or whatever, it just instantly fills overthecap.com/salary-cap/Kansas-Diddy-Chiefs. It's like boom. This might as well be my homepage, especially from like mid-February to April.
You live there, and so that's the big thing too. And I talked about this a little bit on the stream. It is we're getting a little ahead of our skis, right? When we talk about next year's cap, right? And we're week 8 of the NFL season.
But it's not. Yeah, but it's weird for us to be talking about it in October. Yeah.
Yeah. So I do think that like they're $30 million ish over the cap right now, according to approximations. They'll obviously restructure Mahomes because I think his cap hit right now is like 72 million, which I doubt is
over the cap has it at 78 million.
Okay, 78. So I doubt that says his actual cap hit next year. I'll put that. I feel pretty good about that. They got Chris Jones's cap hit. I think goes up to like 44 next year or something like that, which is also kind of insane. They'll probably cut Mike Dana, which I don't know how I feel about that because they will have like literally no bodies in the defensive end room if they do that.
But Amina, who's not under contract, they probably cut Dana. Yep.
And then, Jawan Taylor, they can free up some. Yep. So I think between Jawan Taylor and Mike Dana, doing this all off the dome, by the way, Josh, I think they can free up like 30-ish million with them.
Yep.
Ballpark rounding there. So like there you go right there. There's what you made it up, and then you can get space whatever you want with restructure of Chris Jones deal or Travis Kelce, or not Travis Kelce. Wow, Patrick Mahomes deal. Travis Kelce's not under contract for next year. I doubt that he is under contract next year. I'd be surprised if Travis Kelce signs a contract for next year. But
yeah, same. I am also questioning my Christian Fulton numbers now because the dead money number is different than I had it earlier. I think I had Spot Track earlier and over the cap.
Oh, interesting.
More because it says cutting him next year. This is so silly, you're right. Cutting him next year is an $8 million dead cap hit according to the. I guess it's because it'd be $3 million of guaranteed base salary, maybe $5 million of guaranteed salary. Okay, so that if they traded him, I think they would probably free up an extra 5. Is my read on that now? That would explain the difference between cutting him and trading him, because another team would be taking on that salary supposedly. Correct. Anyway,
correct. Yeah.
Which does mean that like it's not obvious to let him go next year. If they keep him around this year. Next year he goes in the training camp as the number 2 or maybe number 3 corner. With him and Noah Williams being your outside guys when you want McDuffie in the slot. I don't know. Again, you're right that we're way ahead of our skis there, but it's kind of interesting.
I do want to point something out from the chat too. They're talking about the cap going up. Spot Track, and I believe Over the Cap does this as well, where they kind of have their own cap increasing projections as well. They add to it. If Tom Lester says cap has been going up 10% a year since COVID, that puts the cap at 305. Chiefs would still be over. Right now their total cap allocations for next year. This is according to Spot Track. Their total cap allocations are $341 million. So they're still.
That's the same number that Over the Cap has too.
Okay, so they're still way over the cap, and they've got a lot of different like tools that they can like levers they can pull to clear a bunch of cap, like we just mentioned. But I do think that like the cap is obviously going up, and which is going to change the percentage of cap, where like all this money is distributed, which is this is a very off-season conversation. Yes. But nevertheless, I do think it definitely does next year's cap and your allocation of like where you have players. Like you look at, we talked about the defensive end room. They got nobody on the defensive line under contract next year, and that's
Chris Jones and George Karlaftis and Gelati and Norman Lott. Yep. Is that like literally it almost?
They have two defensive linemen, Norman Lott and Chris Jones under contract. They have Mike Dana, George Karlaftis, Felix Anudike-Uzomah, Ashton Gelati are your edges under contract. That's it. Wild. That's all of the defensive line. And we already talked about cutting Mike Dana.
And I saw the question about the about McDuffie there also from Jackie. I don't think any of the,
Yeah.
I'll say this. They can do whatever they want with McDuffie. Next year, he's about a $13.5 million cap hit. And they will carry him at that happily if that's what they need to do. If they extend McDuffie, his big money years will be further down the line.
Right.
I imagine his big money years would start to really kick in after you assume that Chris Jones is probably retired. Like, that's kind of the timeline you can be thinking with here. So I wouldn't be worried about the future-looking extensions as much as just the management for 2026, because it is going to be kind of a weird one next year.
Yeah. So I mean, super weird. We had the chat talking about kind of just the like Harrison Butker's contract as well is kind of big. It's kind of bulky that you're gonna have to deal with. I mean, there's a lot of interesting pieces and mechanisms that they do have to get around while also constructing a roster. Right now, they only have 36 players under contract for 2026. That's a low number. Usually,
that's a low number for a high salary.
Yes, for you have 36 players under contract and you are over the cap. Think about that.
It's crazy. Let's talk about something slightly crazier and also something less crazy but more relevant to us. We're going to take our second timeout and then come back with the everything else section of the show, which I will properly just ask you to not do any sort of wagering on. We're just going to do a podcast. We're going to do a show. It's going to be fine. I'll wear some 3D glasses so I can read the back of playing cards if necessary. I do not have an x-ray table.
Looking to remodel your home and in search of a top-quality company to do the job? Contact Elenco. Since 1986, Elenco has been the remodeler of choice for customers throughout Kansas and Missouri. As a family-owned and operated business, Elenco provides customers top-quality products and unbeatable service straight from their family to yours. From windows and doors to siding, insulation, and bathroom renovations, there's no need that Elenco can't meet and exceed. Elenco only installs products that have proven track records of success, such as the Kohler Luckstone shower system. Elenco's installers are factory-trained professionals who know how to get the job done, not only quickly, but flawlessly. Whether you're located in Kansas City, Topeka, Wichita, or a rural town in northeastern Kansas or western Missouri, Elenco will come to you. Go to elencohome.com for more information. That's ALENCO home.com. Again, elencohome.com for more information and contact them about all your home improvement needs.
Chiefs Kingdom, I have got a question for you. What is your favorite touchdown? Well, for me, I can confidently say that my favorite touchdown, it's the next one, because with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, every touchdown could bring you closer to cashing in. From the first touchdown score to anytime touchdown props or the thrill of live in-game betting, every snap is loaded with opportunity. From spreads to money lines, same-game parlays, regular parlays, you want it, DraftKings has got it. Here's the best part. Bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets instantly. I use DraftKings Sportsbook, and you should too. Your team hitting pay dirt pays out to you. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code KCSN. That's code KCSN to turn $5 into $200 in bonus bets if your bet wins. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, fees may apply in Illinois. 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bet must win to receive reward. Minimum minus 500 odds required. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio.
At this point, pretty much everyone has some frame of reference for the NBA story that came out yesterday. And calling it an NBA story is not entirely fair, but also I think is a fair way to mention it. I think you could reasonably have, I don't know, 5 different lead takeaways from what this story encapsulates. I find several of them truly delightful. Well, not delightful. Fascinating. from afar,
Fascinating.
delightful to not be involved in. The idea, I saw the video on Twitter, and frankly, I don't know if this is actually discovered evidence from these poker games, or if this was an example of how the technology works. But as soon as I saw the video of a glasses lens in front of a camera looking over the backs of playing cards to reveal K, Q, J, numbers on the backs of the cards, once I saw that video and the phrase contact lenses used for seeing marked cards in these supposedly big phony poker games that the FBI uncovered, which is implicating several folks in the NBA right now, including an update from Pablo Torre from like a little bit ago that I'm going to read in a second. It has been a fascinating swing of a few things. Tucker, is there anything in particular that has caught your eye? Is there one thread of this that you have found the most titillating?
I have a little bit, and it does have to do with all of this, but it also has to do with another person who wasn't involved in it today or yesterday. It was a person who was involved in it quite a while ago who was arrested and who is apparently exonerated from all this and is walking free. It's Gilbert Arenas, because if you remember, Gilbert Arenas was arrested for something very, 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 very similar. And now all of a sudden, all of these arrests are being made, and Gilbert Arenas doesn't have anything happening to him. That's kind of weird, right? That's kind of super strange that also Gilbert Arenas was friends with the people that were also involved in this. That's also kind of weird and super strange. And then Gilbert Arenas is out here posting that he got the informant's lunch. Did you see that one? That was crazy. Oh, no, dude. He's like bragging about it. That's wild. And he also said, there's a TMZ article going around where Gilbert Arenas said, I'm not going to jail because I'm snitching.
He said that publicly?
Yeah, he did.
Well, look, legally speaking, he could have been joking as far as this podcast is concerned. That's fascinating. I did not know that.
Oh, dude, now it's not known. I should say he allegedly, Mr. Arenas allegedly just spilled the whole operation.
Allegedly, according to himself, perhaps. Allegedly, non-legally bindingly, please don't sue a podcast.
Right, yes. No, that is incredibly hilarious that he's just kind of also bragging about snitching. And like this also, here's the other thing. This is the mafia involved in it. This isn't just like his buddies.
Yeah. Yeah.
So pray for Gilbert.
Pray for everybody, I think.
Yeah.
The part of it to me,
Gilbert.
This may be my most serious take as not a lawyer and not someone who's terribly interested in prosecuting crimes. If this was a true crime podcast, I think other parts of it would be more interesting. By the way, Trey Smith and Josh Simmons won't practice today. Jalen Watson will be back at least in some form.
Oh, Kareem's back
Jarrett.
too. Nice. Shout out.
Who else is back? Sorry.
Kareem.
Oh yeah, you're right. Okay, at least some capacity for him. Good call.
Yeah.
Here's what I really think is like sports interesting. And there's also the Terry Rozier stuff, and like you've seen his highlight reel of like some suspicious turnovers. All the stuff about the Chauncey, Scary Terry reporting back and betting activities. Crazy part of this that seems evident is that the sports books flagged this stuff instantly. Like it found that when sports books get a whole bunch of Terry Rozier unders pouring in for a random game, they flag that and report it to teams. Like I'm not here to argue on behalf of like, no, everything's fine and everything will be fine forever and we can just definitely make this the Wild West and it will always be okay. I don't know that that's true. Right. But it seems like the sports books have actually done what they're supposed to do in these circumstances.
Correct.
And then, like, the FBI has mostly done what it's supposed to do in these circumstances, which is why I'm going to read this from Pablo Torre. Terry Rozier's lawyer confirmed to Pablo Torre Finds Out yesterday, that the NBA conducted an investigation and, quote, Terry was cleared by the NBA, unquote. Rozier kept playing for Miami in 2025. But, as Pablo Torre Finds Out reported in our July episode, Rozier was never actually cleared by the federal government. Pablo then got the follow-up, so he was cleared by the NBA but not the feds. Did the NBA cover it up? Pablo Torre then quotes that with Charles Barkley's answer to this general question on ESPN tonight, quote, clearly the NBA dropped the ball. I think if there is a secondary explosion out of this, there's one explosion already. We're already in it.
Oh, yeah.
I think if there's a secondary explosion out of this, it's going to be what the NBA knew. When did they know it?
Right.
And if you thought that how many times do you hear the little idiom of like, well, cover-up's worse than the crime? In this instance, you have literal crime that does question the integrity of your league into question, and at least the integrity of betting on your league into question. Because I don't know what Terry Rozier was doing on a couple of those turnovers, but theoretically, Chauncey Billups was like reporting, "Hey, we're sitting our starters today, but nobody knows yet, so you guys get to know this first, allegedly, et cetera, et cetera." I'm not, please, everybody gets this, right? So here's reporting this in. That's not exactly Pete Rose, I guess. But it is something that once you have a sniff of it, puts the league in a terrible place. Your options there, I guess, are either try to handle that behind the scenes and never let it get out, or get out ahead of it a little bit and prosecute it hard. And it seems like the NBA took door A, and the FBI took door B. And now we're talking about these fixed poker games and it putting some of the integrity of the league into question. And that was the worst case scenario for the evolution of sports betting in American sports, was getting to a point where that question could come around. So I have the most questions in this for Adam Silver, who already had a whole bunch of questions about the Clippers and Kawhi, where the answer was like, yeah, we either cleared that company a long time ago or never heard of them. I can't remember which one. You can't have that be the stance of your leadership. I think that's a bit of it's a giant red flag.
Pablo Torre doesn't need me to say this because he doesn't know who I am, but Pablo Torre has been doing some fantastic work.
It is an unbelievable run in sports journalism.
Yeah, and
he had an episode about Michael Lombardi come out today that I haven't listened to yet, but it sounds like a heater.
Yeah, that Bill Belichick bought him a Super Bowl ring because he was fired 7 months before they won the Super Bowl or something like that.
Yep.
Was that 51?
Yep, saw that part.
That's crazy. I do need to listen to all of that one because I listened to the last one he did about Jordan Hudson and Mike Lombardi, the whole power dynamic there with Bill Belichick. But what also I think is important about this story is it shows people what the real ramifications are if the NFL was actually rigging games. This is what so people are like throwing out, oh, the NFL's rigging their games, they're rigging. No, they're not. You know how many people that would have to? Lily just growled at me.
Whoa, she doesn't like all this talk about you bringing the refs up on a Friday.
She didn't like that. I think that this is very important. Like the ramifications of what a scandal like this would, number one, have to take for everyone involved to be covered up. Number two, the ramifications of it legally. And number three, like the sportsbook would obviously be in on it as well, right? And It seems like the sportsbook are very much not in on anything else that's happening in their leagues. Yes, Josh.
I just had a thought that I would love to share with you. Do you know who I can't imagine would love having a absolute tear of inside information, making millions of dollars for the bettors at the expense of the sportsbook? The sportsbooks. Why would the sportsbooks want this? Why would the sportsbooks want to be sitting there with their odds all jacked up? Again, I'm not here to just be like, yeah, no, everything's fine in all the sportsbooks in every corner of the nation. But why would the sportsbooks want to sit around and go, like that is partially self-preservation for them. You go, that's a lot of Terry Rozier unders. And he injured himself 6 minutes into the game or whatever it was. I don't know if that's true. That's suspicious, and it's costing us money. Mm-hmm. So the books are also incentivized to take that side.
So I think that like people have to. Oh, here's a crazy thing for me to say. People need to be rational in what they're saying. And
all right, let's just end the show then. I mean, if you're gonna ask for that,
yeah. I mean, that's a little too. I realize that it's a little too far. Stephen Holman in the chat also says underdog ad jump scare, which is actually hilarious. That is just a YouTube ad that played in the middle of.
Oh, did it really?
Yeah,
that's funny. I assumed that was Lily barking and thinking, oh, that's.
Oh yeah, no.
Dogs now.
I don't like these AI ads they're doing. I know they're not. I know we're outside of their umbrella right now. They can't hear us. I don't like the AI dog ads. Not one bit. Put some. You know what I want?
put some real damn dogs on a little puppy bowl looking field, throw some money in there, get a money gun.
Yep.
Like, I don't know, like Snoop Dogg. Call Snoop Dogg. Pay him. I don't know. I'm tired of these AI commercials, man. Can't be doing that. Oh, I got another one that's another more local one that I'm not going to say the name of, but somebody locally, a big spender locally, has been throwing some real AI schlop up there. It is not a good time.
I know who you're talking about. It's not good. It makes me feel
not
bad
good.
inside.
Not good. It's terrible.
It's bleak.
It
Everywhere
is.
you look.
My point here, Brian, isn't that sports books are all perfect angels. It's that the sports books, Brian, did the job. The reports that we have are that the sports books saw a lot of Terry Rozier unders and alerted the league that something fishy was happening. Like, of the people in this, the other thing is, like, I don't know what the hell Chauncey Billups is doing, trying to get his beak wet a little more for a dude that has had 2 NBA careers. Terry Rozier's, I don't have it in front of me. He's making almost $30 million. Well, he was gonna, I think, make almost $30 million this year. I'll Google it before the show ends and make sure I still have that right. But, like, that's crazy, man. The people who have the most to lose are the leagues that can have things put into question.
For sure.
The people who have things to gain here are being snuffed out because it's not worth it from the league's perspective. But man, I think they could have gone at this much more aggressively.
Yeah, I do think that if you listen to us talk about this and that's what you took away from it, you should go back and listen to it again.
Yeah, I would agree.
That's what I'm gonna say. It is, and like you mentioned from the league's perspective, like how much that does for your league to like know that you were a complicit, I guess, in it.
Right.
For like from the NBA's point of view, like boy howdy, if they knew that Terry was doing that and then they like didn't, and they told him to like fake an injury or something, because I know that was a report going on too, like that they said like, hey, we're not going to suspend you, you're just going to be injured for the rest of the year. Also is not a great way to handle it as well. So I know they probably didn't want to send off too many red flags, but they probably should have sent off maybe 1 or 2 red flags with something like this.
Also, like, this comment from VF is epic. I think that as I've scrolled through a lot of Pablo's tweets the last several weeks, VF is epic says the bar for journalism in this country is so low now. Like, just a basic amount of investigative journalism is such a breath of fresh air compared to some other people. I didn't say anybody else.
Yeah.
The responses that Pablo gets to what are literally the biggest stories in sports for those few days, like every time, is so baffling to me. Yeah. Somebody, like, he quote tweeted some dope here today who said, hold on, I'm scrolling back. This is from Polly Walnuts on Twitter, responds to Pablo Torre doing some deep dive investigative journalism on Michael Lombardi, Bill Belichick, and the state of UNC football. Mm-hmm. Polly Walnuts responds, who cares? This some Gossip Girl bleep. Pablo Torre quote tweets that by saying, A, Gossip Girl's a good show. B, this is like if Serena van der Woodsen was one of the 6 highest paid public employees in the state of North Carolina and also the highest paid GM in the entirety of college football.
Right.
He gets so many tweets that are some variant of like, oh, typical Pablo doing it for the clicks. Guys, if real-ass journalism was getting everybody clicks all over the place, there'd be more journalism.
Yeah.
Pablo is doing this because Pablo can do it, and nobody else is. ESPN's, like, investigative journalism arm does not function the way that it used to. Local newspapers around the country do not investigate the way that they used to. There is still good journalism being done, but there is significantly less. It is significantly less frequent. It is significantly less deep. That is in politics and sports and the world in general. Like, that is something we have seen a very clear trend of. And to get to a point where one guy in sort of this pseudo-independent space now that's associated with The Athletic, it was, associated with Meadowlark or whatever, that effectively Pablo is just like, I'm just going to do this until my eyelids shut, however long I can do this. The fact that he has turned out, he was doing stuff on Ohtani. He had some of this NBA gambling murmuring months ago. Say again?
In July he had this.
July. Yes, in July. we all know about Jordan Hudson and Bill Belichick now. So much of what has followed has been reporting based off what Pablo's done. ESPN and other outlets now are doing Kawhi Clippers ascension reporting. They are now doing it and not mentioning Pablo's reporting until like paragraph 8, even though that started the entire thing. Mark Cuban is taking breaks from going on podcasts and telling people that public transit shouldn't be free so he can go on Pablo's podcast and say that everything is fine here. Stop looking. And these people do not deserve the benefit of the doubt. That's the thing that really bugs me and sort of the anti-journalism of it all. People now trust billionaires, multi-billionaires with plenty of reasons to lie to you. They trust the billionaires more than they trust journalists because they're convinced that journalists have agendas and billionaires are these all-seeing, well-intentioned people who just hustled more than the rest of us could have, which is such a broken worldview that is so perfectly summarized in how these stories are viewed.
I think that's a great way to put it. And I was listening to the Pablo podcast with Mark Cuban, and I kind of gave you guys like the TLDR because it was an hour and a half long, right? And I just had a long drive, so I was going to throw it on there because I think it's an interesting conversation. And it was just a lot of arguing over semantics, right? Of just like, oh, this is not actually how you do this in business. This is how you do this in business. Because Mark Cuban is a very smart businessman. I will give Mark Cuban credit for that. He is a very smart businessman. I think he's well-intentioned, but, you never really know. And those are two guys that like to have very intelligent debates. They were arguing over semantics, and a lot of the times, Mark Cuban would be like, well, you don't know this happened. And Pablo would have to say, Mark, I've had 20 sources tell me about this. And he's like, well, your sources are just, and then he just discount the sources.
Right.
So he's like, no, I've had 20 different people tell me that this is why that they did this, and this is the form. And he was pulling out, he had a whole manila folder, right? Of papers that he was giving him, of forms, of documents, of everything like that. It really is one of the things, and Pablo's investigative reporting on the whole Kawhi Clippers thing is phenomenal. Like, it is thorough, and it is one of the things that is so baffling how the NBA is just like trying to just like act like it's not a thing at all, just because this one podcast brought it up. But it is definitely a thing. It's definitely real. There's definitely some real. I don't even know if you have to make a ton of logic jumps, truthfully, for you to believe it happened, because Steve Ballmer was already in trouble for circumventing the cap. Like, this would be his second instance of circumventing the cap, at least his second instance of circumventing the cap. It is. I do really appreciate Pablo Torre. I've appreciated Pablo Torre for a very long time, and where he has been, like at ESPN and everything like that. To where he is now. I mean, it's been a long journey for him, but it is good to see the investigative journalism and reporting be alive for him. I always do love when he like comes up with like the Ring camera footage of Bill Belichick or something like that.
It's crazy.
And like how he is able to get the information that he is so funny and so awesome. I can't remember. There's something else that like he did an investigative story over, but I was like, how did you get that information?
Every time one of these stories breaks, he just tweets, I just want people to listen to the bird watching episode, which is also completely baffling. I haven't revisited that in a while. I need to go listen to that again. I think we've done more than a show. We were going to do our mobile game graveyard. We are not going to do it today, which is again 100%, because I didn't think we would spend an hour and 5 minutes on all of this stuff. And
we didn't even talk about the Louvre robbery either.
Yeah,
like that was another thing we were going to talk about.
Yeah, that was crimes that don't sound real. Is X-ray vision poker games and jewel heists that are just back on the menu now, I guess. I didn't do any extra research on the Louvre theft.
It's crazy. I watched a couple
like
TikToks.
Broad daylight, right?
Yeah, like I've watched a couple TikToks, so I'm basically informed.
Great.
They were TikToks
More than
from
most.
like I think BBC News, and one of them was from like the New York Times. So I think I'm good and well informed. It was like happened 30 minutes after it opened. They climbed up a ladder, smashed a window, went to like right where all the jewels were, smashed the cases, grabbed the jewels, smashed a window, left on scooters. The whole thing happened in like maybe 15 minutes. It's so cool.
I didn't know you could just do that. I didn't know that was an option. I thought something would stop you.
I saw something as well, a commentary of it, and just saying like, you know how people are just like, I hope both teams have fun. Yes. That's how I feel about the heist. I'm glad that those guys had fun. I hope they get caught. I hope they get the items back. But I'm just glad those guys had fun. I hope both teams have fun.
What an outing! What a day with the boys.
Yeah, Right. Some federal crimes.
I know there are answers to this. I know there are like black markets and stuff for this, but I do still have just a little hang up of like, so who do you sell crown jewels to?
That's the part is what is actually going to happen, and what experts predict is it gets destroyed and melted down into other metals that they can then sell. So they can significantly decrease
that way, though. Right? Okay. Yeah.
Yes, but that's how they can sell it and get away with it and not have it on their hands right anymore.
Interesting.
So a lot of the experts already think that it's like all of those things: the brooches, the tiaras. They dropped one, I think, a crown or a crown for one of the Napoleon's wives. It's from the Napoleon regime, so we're really gonna miss it. I know that they had a lot of precious like. Here's also the thing, you can't melt diamonds, you're right, Shazam, but you can recut them. And that also is like how you can do it. And so that's a part of the diamond process as well. This is going to make me sound really suspicious that I know all this stuff. I promise I was not in France when this happened. So the way that all of like the brooches are cut and like even like the necklaces, the tiaras, all the way that those diamonds are cut, they're a very specific shape and style. So even if they were just to pop those suckers out and try to resell them, they'd be like, this is a really strange cut piece of diamond. So they then have to recut the diamond to make it not look as antique or as historical in terms of how they were cut. So then it is very suspicious. I understand, Megan. This is incredibly suspicious for how I'm saying this. So they'll melt down like the gold and the silver. They'll sell those into like whatever they need to. It does significantly decrease the value of just like selling a brooch that was worn in, the olden times. Right. But if you try to sell a brooch that was made in the olden times, you're going to be in jail in 15 minutes. So it is very, very interesting of like, here's like the risk versus the reward does not match up. Like it's the thing is like, yeah, well, I'm sure it was hell of an adrenaline rush, but like after that, it's like, all right, what's next?
Final question. The show's already gone long.
Yeah.
What's the most thing you could steal and get away with? You're into this now. You've learned about the system. Are you stealing? Here's the thing: you can't melt down a painting, right? So I feel like we talk about like art theft that way. You think, well, that's not what you've opened my eyes to. As a commenter said a moment ago, this will be the final edition of this podcast as I turn my interest fully into jewel theft. Tom, I don't miss sad fans. We have sad fans almost every week. We didn't have sad fans this week. We have had sad fans every other week of the season.
Mm-hmm.
I do think I was going to see who said the thing about the jewel thieving, but I've already forgotten. Obviously, I will continue doing this podcast while the jewel theft is ongoing. Right. I don't want to have it be so obvious. Now, me confessing to it, I guess, on the podcast is something that we'll have to deal with later. But I think once I've disappeared without a trace, you'll know that I have pulled off the jewel theft or the fraudulent poker game or whatever. I haven't really decided yet.
Right. I think that's all. I don't know what the most I could feel good. I think my guilty conscience would get in the way. That's the worst part about me is that I've got a hell of a conscience. So it would probably inhibit me from like stealing, maybe even I don't know, like something at a gift shop. Like,
yeah, have you ever just like shoplifted anything? I legitimately
on accident.
Oh, that's a good call. I don't think I've ever shoplifted anything in my life from childhood to now. I carry a deep anxiety of being in trouble, so I don't think I've got that on my radar.
I did see that they did release a picture of somebody that they did have for this smash and grab. Did you see this? Did you see the picture that they released of the guy who did it? I think he's coming for the Declaration of Independence next.
Yeah, I think his face is a little bit hard to make out there, but I do believe he's wearing a bag reserved to put the Declaration of Independence in over his shoulder there. And yeah, I mean, look, it's good that we've got a lead for that guy. He looks wildly suspicious. I wish I could remember what his name was in the movie right now, and I can't. It was like, wasn't it Ben something? It was like Ben Franklin.
He was named after Ben Franklin, which is like, you're going to name him after not a president.
No, yeah. It's my favorite president, in fact.
Right, yeah. Mine too, at this point. Ben Gates is his name in the
Ben
movie.
Gates.
Yeah. Honestly, great film. I'll say it.
Incredible. I love National Treasure. I haven't seen it in an extremely long minute. But you know what? Maybe that's the end result of this. Maybe it's, hey, everybody, enjoy your weekend. You've got all Sunday to enjoy the NFL.
Yeah.
Tonight, tomorrow, watch National Treasure. I wasn't as big a fan of National Treasure Book of Secrets, but I remember enjoying it okay. It was fine. It wasn't as good as the original, but it was fine.
How many of them are there? How many National Treasure movies are there?
Well, I think, wasn't there a Disney Plus series either done or in the works that didn't include Nick Cage? No ill will towards whoever's in it. I'm just not that interested.
Yeah, Edge of History is what it's called.
Oh, we finally got one. Tom says baseball cards from Safeway in the 70s. Statute of limitations. Feds, we got them. Baseball cards from Safeway in the 70s.
Lock him up.
Let's go ahead and bring him in. Lock him up. I can actually, with my lighting settings in here, it'll take me way too long for the bit to be worth it, but I can make it look like there are like cop lights just oscillating in my office because of these light bulbs.
VF is epic. I am not related to Benjamin Franklin. Benjamin Franklin had 3 children, and I think they were all 3 women. And 2 of them, they're old cops are here, and they didn't have children. He didn't have, or I think he had 2 kids. Both were women. None of them had kids.
Interesting.
He has no direct he has no grandkids. Yeah.
No Ben Franklin lineage. Mm-hmm. That's fascinating. I didn't know that.
Yep, I've looked.
Okay.
I looked up into because I thought for sure I was. Me, and I also thought I was related to James Franklin, the Missouri quarterback.
And were you?
No.
Mm-mm. Have you? Well, there is a good question about I think wasn't Ben Franklin famously pretty loose with it?
Yeah.
So theoretically,
and there is. Yeah, we don't need to have that conversation right now.
No,
this is not. We don't need to have this conversation. An hour and 13 minutes. And hang on, let me get my lights set because you set your lights to alarm. I gotta set my lights to alarm.
Yeah, it's bad. I don't like it. I will not keep it like this for even 1 second after the show ends. But for the sake of a visual bit and a largely audio medium, I am currently sitting in a flash of red, white, and blue lights that looks like I am in some sort of terrible trouble.
Holy hell! Where is it? I know I've seen that preset before. It's alarm, right?
It's called alarm. Yeah, it's pretty far down there.
Yeah.
Are you related to any famous Franklins?
Aretha.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Can you just tell?
I can't.
So funny story. I told my sister, when Aretha Franklin died. What year would that have been? Aretha Franklin.
I'm just sitting here in some flashing cop lights, waiting for you to find out what year. Aretha
2018. Okay, so she was 10, and I told my sister.
Your sister.
Yeah, my sister was 10. Aretha Franklin was not 10 when she died.
No. Yeah.
I told my sister that was our. I think I said our cousin was Aretha Franklin.
First cousin. You really went for it. Yeah.
First cousin, and she had gone all the way until a couple of years ago. She realized that Aretha Franklin, we were not related to her. And I honestly
that you know of.
Yeah.
I
know. That's a great point. Maybe we are. Maybe we are related.
I was also thinking about what Mark's just said in the chat. Franklin the cartoon, the turtle.
The turtle, yeah, I got that one a lot.
Don't know if that's first. That's true. That probably got annoying pretty quick, huh?
Yeah, I mean that one. Yeah, I don't really mind that one. That one's okay.
I liked him. I liked
Franklin. Tame. Yeah, great kid. From everything I've heard, great kid.
Absolutely, yeah. No character concerns there.
A lot of people used to tell me that I look like Bobby Hill from King of the Hill.
Yeah, that's not.
Before I had the beard
as a child, pre-beard, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and I did look like Bobby Hill, especially when I had the shaved head. My parents just be like, "You're just getting the one all around," because they didn't want to take me to get my hair cut.
Yeah, so you turn into.
Not related to Troy Franklin either. I know that he's a wide receiver. Not related to him.
James Franklin, somebody asked about.
James, neither the Penn State coach or the former Missouri wide receiver. Not related to them.
Yeah, that's about the coach.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think there's any other Franklins that I would. My uncle's Bob. I know that it's kind of funny to have an Uncle Bob, but I'm related to him.
Bob.
Shout out Uncle Bob. Uncle Ron.
Zaire Franklin?
No relation to or Franklin Pierce. VF. I appreciate the effort. Not related to Franklin Pierce either.
I'm scrolling down an entire Wikipedia page here of notable Franklins, and none of these are that funny. Why aren't you on here?
I don't have a Wikipedia page. Can I make one?
I don't think so. I don't think you can make your own.
So, chat, make the Wikipedia page for me.
There's a whole page for Benjamin Franklin disambiguation because there are so many people named Benjamin Franklin after President Benjamin Franklin.
Right, yeah. The 4th president of the United States, Benjamin Franklin.
The greatest president of the United States, Benjamin Franklin.
Mm-hmm. Inventor of the light bulb, Benjamin Franklin.
Inventor of everything. Inventor of the light bulb, inventor of America, inventor of promiscuity, allegedly.
Infidelity, yeah. GTA 5 Franklin, not related to him either, unfortunately.
That's really disappointing, man.
That's a bummer. I used to buy baseball cards at Ben Franklin's. Yeah, he used to smoke weed at Johnny Hopkins.
I don't even know what that...
That's from Step Brothers. He's in the car, and he said he went to... He's
like.
a doctor. He went to John Hopkins. He said, I used to smoke weed with John Hopkins.
Man, we got to figure out how we're going to end this show, huh?
Okay, what it said, can't make your own, need to be in at least 2 articles by reputable sources, and have a degree of some notoriety to justify the article. I think I know people who are at notable sources who could write an article about me.
I have written stories used as sources in Wikipedia articles. I know that. Jordan Fulton and I discovered that a year or so ago as I was looking up something on Wikipedia, and a source in the Wikipedia page was one of our stories on the former Chiefs SI site. Several of them, in fact. So I've contributed to Wikipedia.
Yeah, you know what? Maybe I'm there. Kirk Franklin, not related. Unfortunately,
that's a good question.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. That I'm glad that VF is Epic just knows the qualifications. I like to think that you didn't Google that and you just knew the qualifications off the top of your head for the Wikipedia page.
Jets head coach Aaron Glenn declined the name of starting quarterback on Friday, shutting down all quarterback-related questions. He also ruled out Garrett Wilson and cornerback Sauce Gardner.
Oh, it's Brady Cook for sure. Brady Cook is starting that game.
Is he QB3?
Mm-hmm.
I had no idea Brady Cook was QB3 in New York. That's crazy.
Yeah. Crazy.
We've got to figure out a way to end this show. It's been an hour and 20 minutes.
I went 2 hours the other day just playing Sporkle quizzes, so. I
know, this is supposed to be a show. This was theoretically... I considered at one point, Tucker, having an outro bed of music that just played to get us out by 1 o'clock even. I thought, well, that's unnecessarily restrictive, right? We don't need to live like that.
Yeah.
But now here we are at 1:25, and I'm thinking, why didn't we do the mobile game graveyard, you know? We're sitting here in flashing lights like we've been pulled over.
Mm-hmm. Because we talked about crimes.
Don't sound real. Like Ocean's sort of crimes.
What number are they up to Oceans now? 13, 14?
Well, I don't. So what's interesting is I found out recently there was no. It's like they didn't do Oceans 1, 2, 3, 4. They started somewhere at a higher number. You know,
8, I think.
Imagine Fast and Furious. Imagine the first Fast and Furious being called Fast 8. That's not how that's supposed to work.
Wow, the incredibly strong comment here. This is the most Midwest goodbye I've seen from a podcast.
Yep. So we're gonna get out of here pretty soon. You got any other plans for this weekend? You want to take some food with you? Hey, let me. I'm gonna grab you a Tupperware real quick. I'm not gonna eat all this. You wanna take some food left? Take some leftovers. Take some leftovers. Under the umbrella of flashing red, white, and blue lights. From Scott in the chat. Welp! That'll do it for us here. Welp is the final word unofficially. Okay, push yourself up from your chair, and that will do it. No, that can't be right, Alec. Oceans 11, 12, 13, then 8. 8 was the most recent one?
Yeah, I am looking at it now. It is 11, 12, 13, and 8.
No, that's like video. That's like Battlefield stuff. That's like Battlefield 2049 or whatever, Battlefield 1, Battlefield 6. Well, that'll do it for us here today on Everything Else. Another big shout out to our friends at KC Cannabis Company. You can check them out online at kccannabis.com. We're off for the weekend. Enjoy your red zone. Don't commit any crimes. And we'll talk to you on Monday to get you ready for Chiefs Commanders in less than an hour and 20 minutes. I can almost guarantee that. Watch your back in your poker games, and we'll talk to you on Monday. Till then, bye, Mom. Edward C. Franklin? Eric Franklin?
Maybe.
Charles Samuel Franklin was a British radio pioneer.
I need to check my lineage. I don't know where Franklin I think it's English and Irish, but wouldn't be shocked if I had a little bit of Italian in me.
I know you said no to, I think, 2 James Franklins. What about James Franklin, the naturalist who died in 1834?
Maybe, possibly.
Janet Franklin is an American geographer and landscape ecologist. She's still with us. Josiah Franklin was an English businessman and father of Benjamin Franklin. I wonder if they were related.
Huh. No way, right?
Oh, how about Lance Buddy Franklin? He's an Aussie Rules football player. Buddy Franklin.
Buddy Franklin's a banger name.
No Tuckers on here. You'd still be the first with the Wikipedia page.
I've thought about naming my kid Tucker Franklin Jr., not because I love myself, but just because I want to call him Deuce.
That's pretty good. Have you considered naming him Franklin? Or perhaps, Tucker, Franklin. Triple move!
I'd call him squared. I mean cubed.
Franklin cubed is good. Well,